Sage, are you tired of Batman there at all?
I could never be tired of Batman.
Can never be tired of Batman. Well, you're just in luck. There's a new Batman show out there for people and for yourself to go out there and consume, and that is Batman Caped Crusader. So, Batman Caped Crusader is the Amazon Prime show here. Of course, about the legendary comic book hero Batman. This series was shopped around because it was originally, of course, being a Batman property. DC is owned by Warner Brothers. They originally was supposed to go to Max, but they turned their back on it. Then they started kind of shopping it around a little bit, seeing who would take it. I think at one point even Disney Plus was maybe mentioned as people were going to kind of take it and kind of publish there at one
That's
point.
wild.
But it found a home on Amazon Prime there, and this is a little bit of a different take on Batman than we've seen. And typically, like I said, you're not tired of Batman, but maybe some people are because you get a lot of Batman content, a lot of shows, a lot of movies. There is not an underabundance of Batman that you can find anywhere there when it comes to animated movies, when it comes to animated TV shows, live action TV shows, movies, comic books. There's always something going on with the character of Batman. Video games, the character of Batman. There's always something kind of going on with the character. This one's a little bit of a different take, and this one is trying to aim to be a little bit more grounded, a little bit more realistic, I would say, of it. Trying to go more back to the original incarnation of when Batman first came about, which Batman was created in 1939. But a lot of the runs of Batman very early on were in the 40s when it started really publishing a lot. And that's kind of mainly the style that it's really drawing from that very early on edition of Batman in the 40s and 60s there. Those early Batman stories, but with also a new little bit of a twist on there with some of the designs of the characters there. Like we have a gender swap penguin in there, Oswalda Cobblepot instead of Oswald Cobblepot. You have some stuff like that in this.
The Harley Quinn, which she didn't exist at all back in those comics, so they kind of had to create like a what if she did version of her.
Yes, very true. He's voiced by Jamie Chung in this. And also good voice cast you got here. Some recognizable names that people might know here. Even a former Batman himself, Diedrich Bader, who voiced Batman in Batman the Brave and the Bold. Here he's voicing Harvey Dent, Two-Face there. Do you have a preference besides Kevin Conroy for a Batman voice that you really like?
Besides Kevin Conroy, I mean, I actually really like the Dietrich Bader one. I find him very entertaining. I'll have to sit on it a little, but Hamish Linklater in this series is, I think, really, really impressive with his voice. He's shot up to probably near the top of that list for me already.
And you mentioned Hamish Linklater. People might know him. He was just recently in a Mike Flanagan show, Midnight Mass, which is on Netflix there. And people thought he really shined in that. He played the priest in that. And he really shined in that performance there. He's been in tons of things. He's been in Hollywood a very, very long time there. And he is
He's
the
a
new
major character in the Legion series as well. So it's not his
uh,
first comic book either.
yes. Yes, Legion as well. I think I forgot oh yes, he was the guy that was chasing him.
Yeah, in the first season he's like chasing him, and then he's got some really cool makeup effects that he has to wear in later in like season 2 and 3 that he has to act through, and I thought he was very impressive in that show as well.
Okay, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, he was the guy that was chasing him early on in Legion there. So yeah, people might know him for that. There, he's the new voice of Batman. Besides Kevin Conroy, because of course, if you say who's your favorite Batman voice, everybody's going to say Kevin Conroy there, pretty much. Who rest in peace to him, who passed
Which he
away.
just had his final appearance in the third part of the Crisis on Infinite Earths animated movie, the final performance of Kevin Conroy.
Okay, is this the final performance? I mean, I feel like it's like Tupac when they finally got a new final album coming out. It's like, is this really the final performance of Kevin Conroy? There's no more.
Supposedly this is it, but who knows? They could pull something else out. But they're like, we didn't tell you about this one or something. I don't know. It could happen.
Okay. All right, but yes, rest in peace to Kevin Conroy, who passed away. I think it was last year.
I think it was early last year, but it might have even been 2 years ago at this point.
Let's see. Oh, he passed away. Yes, it was 2 years ago in 2022. So yes, Cameron Crowe, legendary Batman voice actor there from Batman the Animated Series, and a lot of people have been drawing kind of comparisons to the style that this show is trying to do, Batman Caped Crusader and the legendary Batman the Animated Series, which is tough because Batman the Animated Series is considered one of the greatest animated series of all time, or it's even one of the greatest shows of all time. There, how do you feel about Batman the Animated Series?
I mean, I'm a huge fan of it. I like it a lot. I do think uh, sometimes people romanticize it just a little, where they kind of act as though it was a bit flawless. And I do think this show has some very visible A team, Emmy-winning episodes like Heart of Ice. That kind of created that Mr. Freeze origin story with the sick wife, right? Incredible piece of art. And then there's episodes like I've Got Batman in My Basement, which was kind of clearly a B team episode that feels uh, very, very kind of cringy to watch now. And so like there's some holes in the series as well. Plus the final season changed the art style, and some of the character designs in that last season maybe don't work quite as well. Like Catwoman looks a little odd. Joker, they do something weird with his eyes in that last season that just it looks a little strange. Um, but personally, I think that that was being the beginning of the DCAU, DC animated universe. That would then be followed by Superman the animated series, Batman, Justice League, and Justice League Unlimited, and Static Shock. I personally think the writing got better in every subsequent show. So if I was going to pick out of that kind of whole universe of things, I actually think Batman would be the weakest one. As strong as I think certain individual
Mm,
episodes are, as an overall series, I think it is a very good but flawed starting point for that particular universe and continuity.
that may be a hot take. You're saying Batman the Animated Series is the weakest of the DCAU.
I'd say maybe maybe I like it more than the Static Shock show, but I don't think it holds a candle to Justice League Unlimited. I think the writing peaks with
Mm.
that last series.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Also talking about Batman animated series, you do have one of the main creators from Batman animated series who's coming over to do Batman Caped Crusader, Bruce Timm. Bruce Timm, who also was, like you said, one of the masterminds behind the whole DCAU there, with all those other shows that you mentioned. And you have some really all star producers with this as well. You have people like J.J. Abrams, who's a part of this. You also have Matt Reeves just recently directed The Batman with Robert Pattinson there. Another kind of different somewhat interpretation of the Batman character than we've seen on screen before. I was a big fan of the Batman myself there and Robert Pattinson's interpretation of the character. So you think with kind of like we mentioned all this kind of Batman content out right now, do you think at least we're getting some unique perspectives on the character and every kind of one of some of these different interpretations there?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, and I think that's the only way to keep something fresh while putting out so much of it, right? I mean, I think they've for the most part done a pretty good job recently. Not counting the Snyderverse Batman stuff. I'm just tossing that out the window. But between the Matt Reeves movie and this, I think there's a good distinction between them. Although they do echo some similarities of each other. Just to even piggyback on, we were talking about Hamish Linklater's The Voice. I think I notice a similarity between how Robert Pattinson played the character and how very stuck in his kind of cold and just very uncompassionate at times kind of behavior, being somewhat early in his career as Batman. I think you see a little bit of that here too. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen Batman be so cold towards Alfred in like any other adaptation than this Caped Crusader series.
Yes, that's very true. He calls him Pennyworth in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never heard him call him by his last name. It's usually Alfred there, usually typically affectionately
Yeah.
Alfred there.
There was a
And
couple of moments where I thought he was going to backhand him in one of the scenes. Like, I really thought he was going to smack him.
and I mean, it's almost like Alfred is almost like an abused spouse in this. Almost like he's just kind of sticking with Bruce here, and with this in Batman Cape Crusader, we're seeing Batman. He is Batman already. We're not really seeing the origin story of Batman. He's basically it's kind of almost like a year one type situation. Been Batman for a little bit of time. The citizens of Gotham, still think he's kind of a myth. You know what I mean? Kind of a fake story here. But when he does appear they realize he is the truth. So I'm gonna give you thoughts. Pass it around. Sage, what are your thoughts on Batman Cape Crusader here?
Yeah, well, I mean, I really enjoyed this. The vast majority of it. I've got a couple things that didn't totally work for me, but for the most part, I thought this was really good most of the way through. I liked, between the Clayface depiction, the Harley Quinn, seeing villains like Onomatopoeia, which is like I wasn't even that familiar with that character, and then I had someone kind of tell me a little bit more about that in the comics. It's like a Kevin Smith creation from like a very particular one-off comic that's like only reappeared one other time in like a Green Arrow book, and then this is like only I want to say the character's third or fourth appearance ever. So they're pulling in from and there's a couple other spots too where I'm like I don't even know who this is an adaptation of. I had to look up. There's like kind of a more supernatural character at one point in the villain, and it's not the Gentleman Ghost episode, but the one following it with the
The
circus.
Yeah, Soul Sucker
That's a
show.
character from a comic, a very obscure one from like the early '80s, and I didn't even know that. So this I feel like I'm someone that I know a lot of comics. I wouldn't say I'm a complete expert or anything because you can only, one person can only read so much unless it's like a full-time job. But I am rarely surprised or unfamiliar with material that's being shown to me, and this gave me a few things where I was like, oh, here's a comic that I wasn't even aware of. So that feels really special. That lends a lot of love to this for me. Yeah, right there. She had a very I in my mind very obscure character here. But yeah, so I really appreciated that about it. I really like the style of it. I like the animation. I will say, comparing it, if you're going to compare it to the '90s animated series, and not that it's fair to do that directly, but I do think there's something about the art in the '90s animated series. It's very special because they drew on black construction paper, and that's part of why that show has such a unique look to it. And this show, with Bruce Timm being involved, and it has some similar stylistic sensibilities to the '90s series. Like that's the '90s series also had a bit of an old school look to the city, right? It
That
wasn't
gothic
totally
type
a pure.
style,
Yeah, it had
Dark
a bit of a
City, The
retro feel.
Crow.
Totally. And so, this is animated a lot more conventionally. And I'm not saying at all it looks bad. I think it does have very good animation, some really good fight scenes, especially when they depict Batman really kind of using like a boxer's fighting style in some of those action scenes. I think some of that's really fluid. That's really good. Um, but again, if you're going to compare them directly, there is something maybe just a little missing about that drawing on black construction paper thing that just gave that such a memorable look. Whereas, again, not bad at all. Just a little more conventionally animated, a little more typical of just modern animation in general. And that's to take nothing away from the art style itself, which I think is fantastic.
It's a pretty
Um,
good shot of the city right here. You see some of the
yeah, that
buildings.
looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess the only thing I would say, and I would particularly want to comment on, I loved this take on Harley Quinn. That
Mm.
to me was one of the standouts here, having to kind of create a golden age version of Harley Quinn for this character that didn't exist at the time, and seeing how they do that different take on her, kind of divorced from the Joker entirely, really making her her own standalone villain. I thought that was fascinating how they the execution on that.
Mm. Yes, like I said, as I said before, voiced by Jamie Chung. Here, Harley Quinzel, who shows up as first episode. She's Bruce Wayne's therapist in this after an incident he had punching the shit out of somebody. Um, Talking about his mama, ended up punching the shit out of him. Yeah,
Why did you
so
say that name?
Uh, very nice. Yeah. So Batman Cape Crusader. I mean, obviously, you can't really compare it to Batman animated series. I mean, it's tough because obviously, like I said, Batman animated series is one of the best animated shows ever, greatest shows ever. So I don't feel right comparing those two things. And also, this is the very first season of the show. And we are going to do a little spoilers talk with it. I mean, the whole series has released already. Released, I think, on August 1st. I think, yeah, August 1st
Yeah.
released. Um, so get into some spoiler talk with it. it does tease a second season. I don't know if it'll get a second
Yeah.
season, but it does tease one there with it. And I can see, so starting off, I like the way it looks. I like how it does more of that stripped down style of Batman. It is not a lot of gadgets, not a lot of fancy stuff here. It's just kind of him, his costume, his fists, his grappling hook there. Does he even? I don't think does he even use batarangs in this? I don't think he even uses bat.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
He does. Yeah, I remember him in the first episode knocking the penguin's hand away from like a lever with one.
okay, yeah, so it's very, very stripped down of what we've seen typically Batman, and I think one of the criticisms of Batman now is that it's so high tech and so all these gadgets and everything like that, and in one comic, I think there's one where he throws an orb into a room, almost like Nobody Wants to Die or something in that video game where he can throw it into the room and then it does all the work for him, and then he can, basically reverse time and do all this stuff like that. It's like, it really misses a lot of the detective work, so I did appreciate that style there. The voice work here is really good, from everybody kind of involved and everybody doing this. Hamish Linklater, who does play Batman, does a solid job here. Before I talked more about the DCAU and kind of what Bruce Timm did there and Kevin Conroy, I would say besides Kevin Conroy, my second favorite voice for Batman has been Bruce Greenwood. I think he's really delivered a really
He's
solid job
good. Yeah,
as
as the
Batman.
Under the Red Hood that he was mainly in, right?
Yeah, Under the Red Hood. He's done some couple other stuff. I mean, he's got a great voice in general if you ever listen to him, and he was also in another Mike Flanagan. He usually pops up in Mike Flanagan projects there. He was just in, what was that show, that just recently
Uh, oh, and
uh,
I just watched it not
The
that long
Bly
ago.
Manor,
Yeah,
there.
yeah, he was in Bly Manor, and then he was also in the one that just came out. That was the Edgar Allan Poe one last year.
Yes, I'm blanking on the name of that
The Fall
one.
of the House of Usher. There we go.
All of the House,
Took me a
yes.
second.
So yes, he usually pops up, and then he's got a great voice in general there. Besides them, so you also have John DiMaggio, who's a veteran voice actor. People know him. He's Bender in
He's been the
Futurama.
Joker even.
Yes, he was the Joker in the Batman, the 2004 animated series. There, he was
Yeah.
Batman there, playing Harvey Bullock. You also have Gary Anthony Williams. People that know he was in Boondocks. He played Uncle Ruckus there. He plays Flash there. You also have, we already mentioned Dietrich Bader there. Cedric Yarbrough is in this, so really rounds out. And then also, and Christina Ricci plays Catwoman in this as well. Christina Ricci
Mm-hmm.
plays Catwoman. Um, and so really good voice cast there. And a lot of these episodes are basically the origin story for a lot of these villains. You see basically the origin story of Catwoman, the origin story of Clayface, the origin story of Harley Quinzel becoming Harley Quinn there. And like I said, very much stripped down because Clayface, it's not Clayface as we normally see Clayface being this huge, like kind of mutant creature who's can shapeshift and do all these things. Just a person who's just badly scarred and then that kind of runs around, you know what I mean, committing murders there, almost like a Phantom of the Opera type thing there, instead of the Clayface we've usually gotten in even things like Batman the Animated Series. Did you feel like it being so stripped down? Did you feel like it took away a little bit of the excitement of things as being such a modern day Batman viewer for so long? Did you feel any of that?
I didn't think so. I thought it was, with two exceptions, I thought the takes on all of these villains were super interesting, felt fresh. I thought the character writing shone through so well that, like, even being a bit stripped down in certain cases, I thought the execution of it was all really strong. Two exceptions would be, I mean, one of them even I was more neutral on, which is the penguin, the female penguin that they do. I thought I was just kind of neutral on that. I didn't think it was bad or super interesting. Kind of could have gone either way for me. But I'll say the one that didn't really land for me at all, honestly, was the Two Face uh, adult version here.
Mm,
That for me was kind of the weakest material in the season.
mm. And why do you say that?
Well, I think that they spend so much time. They spend a lot of time showing Harvey Dent before he becomes Two Face here, and you'd think that that would lend really well to kind of doing that origin story at the end of the season. But I think, the thing to me that was missing here was typically a lot of these adaptations of Harvey Dent. I mean, go to whether it's the animated series or the Dark Knight, or many of the different comics, The Long Halloween, which is maybe one of the greatest Batman comics that also had a pretty good. at least serviceable adaptation not too long ago. Harvey Dent is a character who is likable before he's Two Face. And here I felt like they did the opposite of that. I thought they made him very kind of unlikable, corrupt, uh, like hyper sexist towards like Barbara in the offices. And to me, when he has the turn, and especially the way they try and kind of hinge his character on his relationship with Barbara in those episodes, it kind of fell flat for me because I was like, why does Barbara care about him now that he's Two Face when she hated him before he was Two Face? I didn't really buy the relationship between those two characters, and it felt like the whole finale kind of hinged on that.
Mm. Uh, yeah, so you have Harvey Dent, who people know turns into the infamous Two-Face there, a famous Batman villain. And I guess you're saying that, I mean, he was an asshole before he was Two-Face, so when he becomes Two-Face, it's like, well, you were already kinda an asshole. I mean, so it really doesn't change much there.
Yeah, I
Um,
just didn't really feel like I didn't feel like I had a reason to really feel super bad for him or care about where his character was going or how it changed because it didn't seem like he didn't wasn't getting along with or wasn't nice to anyone before that.
yeah. I would say, I mean, besides for Batman and, Alfred, do you think, I mean, Harvey Dent Two-Face pretty much stays very true to pretty much the comic version of that character, the origins of that character?
Except for that, I think Harvey pre the transformation is like an interesting, likable character. I mean, he struggles with split personality disorder in a lot of versions. Something I think was showcased really strongly in the '90s series. But here he's just kind of a douchebag in the office, and then he becomes Two Face. I just didn't think there felt like there was all that much personality to him. The actor Diedrich Bader, I don't think he does a bad job. I think it's in the scripting that I have an issue with here. I think there's just not a lot of meat on the bones for this one. And I think the way that I feel like a lot of the way that the show tries to kind of get you to care about him falling is through Barbara because Barbara cares.
Mm.
But I felt like their relationship was so antagonistic before he becomes Two Face that I'm like, I'm with Barbara. I kind of hate this guy. And then I'm like, why do you care about him all of a sudden? He was so awful to you, like every single episode up until this point. So,
Hey, that's going there, Cal. Good to see you, man. That's
hey, what's
great.
up, Gal?
Yeah, I mean, don't you think also with Bruce, I mean, it tries to also humanize him through his friendship because he still is best friends with Bruce and everything like that.
I think you see a little bit of that, but I think a lot of those conversations, I still feel like in those conversations, well, I mean, it's one of the things that I think is really interesting about Bruce is that Hamish Linklater does this really cool way of doing the different Batman voice versus the different Bruce Wayne voice, where I think Bruce Wayne, he's very good at like, he's pretending to be friendly and kind of, amicable with people and nice and the kind of party goer. But I think Hamish Linklater does a really great job of making it feel fake too, like to the audience. Like you can tell that it's a front that the people are buying, but you can kind of see through it as an audience member. And he's almost doing like a double performance there. And so a lot of the scenes between Bruce and Harvey, to me, it feels like Bruce is like, I don't care about this guy that much. This is just my persona. And then with Harvey in those scenes, I feel like he's talking about how he's like, isn't it awesome how corrupt I am? And the way they're getting along kind of falls flat to me for that reason as well.
Yeah. Here's a little bit of Hamish Linklater as Bruce Wayne here, and I'm gonna play another clip there later on about showing his performance as Bruce Wayne. I mean, of Batman here, but here's a little bit of his Bruce Wayne.
Trying to be helpful, but I'd also like to keep my family name out of the papers if possible. I thought a donation to the department might ensure my involvement here was kept private. Or I could make a check out to you, Miss Montoya.
It's Detective Montoya, Mr. Wayne. And not everything is for sale in this city. I'm not interested in dragging you through the mud. I just want to find Yvonne Francis. You were the last person to see her. That's the
And
only.
the Bruce Wayne design, usually kind of still looks very much like the Batman the Animated Series kind of design there, Bruce
I
Wayne.
think it's very similar. And that's when I mentioned the art style earlier. I think the only reason I compare the art just a little bit is because I do think there's a similar sensibility, even though it's not exactly the same. But I think it's very true to those designs.
Yeah. And I guess with the friendship of Bruce and Harvey there, I mean, it also doesn't kind of make sense that they are friends given how, because in this scene, so he's trying to bribe the detective here, and then later on he goes like, "Well, she didn't take my bribe, so I know she's a good person, so I can maybe work with her in the future." So it doesn't kind of make sense because Harvey is dirty. He's working with the criminals there. I mean, I guess some of it is because hey, like, okay, you give me some information, I'll let you slide on some things. I put some people away. I look good. But it seems like it's mostly for him to look good, so he can look good for his mayoral race there that he's doing his campaign because he's
Yeah.
still trying to be Mayor Dent, mayor of Gotham. That's still a premise here. So it kind of doesn't make even with this the whole much sense that that he's best friends with him here. Um, yeah, and you spoke about some of the changes here with the characters and some who've changed and some who haven't changed. You mentioned Oswalda Cobblepot in this, who is I guess one of the big things that people are talking about in this, and we're going to discuss some other changes here. Um, so with Oswald, you say you didn't really it didn't really make a difference for you, her being,
Yeah, I
Penguin being
was
a woman in
neutral
it.
on it. I thought it felt so much like the same character that I both am like, I'm not going to complain that they made this change, but I'm also going to, on the same note, say, I don't know if I feel like the change was necessary because I don't know if I feel like they did anything that was particularly interestingly different either.
Yeah. So this is a little bit of Mini Driver who's voicing, Oswald Cobblepot there.
You've been most helpful. I'll see you in Flask at an extra 50 this week. The little fink is spilling it to Gordon right now.
Let me have one of the insiders take care of it. Keep it quiet.
No, it's too late for quiet.
Mm.
You don't
And
know.
I like Mini Driver. I like Mini Driver, as an actress there. I think she does a good job here as the Penguin. Um,
I agree with that. Yeah, I think she does a good job. I think it's just in terms of the writing, I'm just like, it's kind of the same character.
and, I don't know, some people were thirsting after Oswald Cobblepot. I don't know if you were one of those people, but some people
No,
got
no, I wouldn't. I think that if nothing else, I think that nose is pretty off-putting.
I'm not one of those people, but I mean, some people got a thing for Oswald Cobblepot. I don't. I mean, people have a thing there. So,
There'll be fan art in no time, I'm sure.
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. There, Rule 34, as they always say. So yeah, so you have her. I thought she was good. And then in this version, she has sons, incompetent sons. Um,
You know what it really reminded me was Margot Martindale's villain in the second season of Justified.
oh, that's a good
She got like
comparison.
Jeremy Davies as her one of the kids, and yeah, they're like her henchmen that she's sending out, and then she'll like scream at them when they kind of fuck up and do something wrong.
I mean, if they ever do a female penguin, she'd actually make a good pick, there. She'd actually make a good pick, Margot Martindale there. Very great character actor, Margot Martindale. Great recurring role in BoJack Horseman there. So yeah, I mean, I think she was good there. So you have that. Barbara Gordon in this is a defense attorney, very much, caring about a lot of the criminals in Gotham and then wanting to see them do better. It's like they're not just gonna do better if you just put them in prison and that's it, and then a rotating revolving door. Um,
Yep.
you do have Commissioner Gordon, who's still Commissioner Gordon in this, who's still that's still a role that he fulfills there.
He felt
And
pretty much the same.
pretty much pretty the same. We've already seen a black Commissioner Gordon. We've seen him in the Batman, played by Jeffrey Wright there. With that, so I
As
mean,
long as he's got a mustache, that's the only thing I care about.
just so yeah, he's got the mustache there. I mean, he's got the very J.K. Simmons, J. Jonah Jameson type thick mustache there as always. And even got the gray in the hair too. It has that kind of look there. The changes that are made to the characters, besides like people like Oswald, people you have like Barbara Gordon, Commissioner Gordon, Harley Quinn. Did that impact anything for you?
For basically for everything except Two-Face and Penguin, I actually really liked the changes, or the kind of different interpretations of the character, and Harley Quinn being like a standout. I actually kind of wish that the season might have ended on that. I think it would have left like a longer, kind of stronger end of the season, lasting impression to take away with the show with. Yeah, I think they're all pretty interesting and well executed, and they feel unique and worth exploring and worth adapting that way. Um, yeah, outside of just those two, and again, one Penguin I was neutral on. I didn't dislike it or particularly like it. Really, Two Face was the only one I felt negatively about the execution for. But between yeah, Gentleman Ghost, Clayface, the vampiric kind of Russian character, with the circus, and then seeing like all the seeing some of the kind of sidekick stuff that they do or pay homage to in that episode, I thought was also very fun. Um, I also thought it was there's some cool little side appearances too that I wasn't expecting here, like in the Gentleman and Ghost episode. There's a Constantine character that pops up that I was like, oh, that's really cool. I wasn't expecting that. Other than Two Face, like I got like pretty much nothing but positive things to say.
Okay. And what do you think about the setting? It being in kind of this 40s type world here. Do you think that setting conflicts with any of the characters here in this world? So, like a Harley Quinn, she is a lesbian, as you see her out to dinner, and she has a girlfriend, and kissing the girlfriend out in public. Do you think that at all kind of crashes into each other? Should people like it being in the 40s, but it's not really in the 40s? Do you think they should adhere to history standards of what it was like in the 40s? But I mean, if you do that, then obviously Batman. I mean, the Batmobile is very much like there was no car like that in the 40s. Obviously, you know what I mean, very advanced
Well,
like
there
that.
weren't any ghosts either.
Yeah, I mean, so what do you kind of say to that there?
I mean, I think I could see I could see where there could be a line of thinking of this could be maybe deeper and more interesting if we did depict it exactly how it was, and hey, some social commentary because of that could also be interesting. But I also, you know, I don't mind it being like a gothic fantasy version of the time period either. I feel like there's not a bad option between those two. I think both are interesting in their own ways. And so I wouldn't say it's a negative for it to not be like a realistic depiction of the 40s, even though that could also have been interesting. But I think just as far as just what they decided to do with it, I think it works pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. And when you see a little bit of, the portrayal of Batman, very much a cold, distant, very much getting to this, Batman is almost probably just as fucked up as the people that he's chasing there, mentally. And you see that in the therapy sessions he's doing with, Harley Quinzel, and also importantly to show that she's actually very good at her job. She's actually Harley Quinzel is actually a very good doctor because she reads him, up and down, pretty well there. There's even a point where he tries to steal some notes there from her, and then she puts a little message in there from her. It's like, oh, okay, we'll see you next session. I thought that was pretty good there.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think that's one of the reasons why I think I liked maybe the reinterpretation of Harley the most. Because I do think that her being across multiple episodes, I think there's just a bit more of a personal dynamic that's built between Batman and Harley versus some of the other villains that kind of, one-off episodes. We deal with them, we're moving on to the next thing. I thought there was like just a little bit more character dynamic added to that.
yeah. Do you feel like it was a little bit too episodic? Would you like to have seen a more bigger, overarching story over the season? Did you like the
To be
case of
honest, the only time it did an overarching story was the Two Face, which was my least favorite part of the show. So I'm cool with it being episodic. Like I said, I think laying seeds across the season. For me, I feel like the first half of the season laid the seeds for Harley, and then kind of partway through we got the Harley episode. I thought that worked really well. So I guess it's just a matter of execution, but I don't mind it being episodic. I mean, it feels like a serialized comic book that way.
Mm, yeah. Let me play a little bit of him as Batman here. You get to hear a little bit of Hamish Linklater's Batman.
Help! Help me! Someone! Who's behind those explosions? Oh God! Who? What are you?
I mean, I gotta admit, that's a lot of man to be hanging. I don't know. I mean, I don't know Batman. I mean, hey, Batman must be strong guy. He must be in the gym a lot. That's a lot of man to be hanging off a roof
Either
there.
that or he's got practice with Alfred and he's doing this to him like
Oh yeah, that's
every
true.
every night for practice.
3 buildings blown to pieces. You falsified the reports. Who paid you? Are you crazy? Pull me up! Give me a name. Just pull me up! Oh God! Hurry, please! I won't ask again. It was a penguin! It was a freaking penguin!
Oh, there you go. And he splatters him right there. Just lets him hang there. On the train there. And Kelsey, who's your favorite Batman adaptation?
Kevin Conroy is my number one.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, Kevin Conroy is obviously, yeah, it's a pretty good pick. I mean, people hear his voice when they're reading the Batman comic now. I mean, it's just that iconic. And people also hear Mark Hamill's voice as the Joker there as well.
Really
Um,
iconic duo.
yeah, I feel like with Mark Hamill, I feel like he's got 2 voices, either the Joker voice or I'm from, like, from the Bronx voice, you know what I mean? He's kinda got
Yeah,
either
he can. Yeah, he's
he's
got a lot of that. When I see him pop up in other animated stuff, I feel like I often hear one of those two voices.
yeah, like, when he's in Invincible, that's like, okay, he's bringing out the Bronx voice, you know what I mean? And then
Yep.
when he plays, like, the what was that villain's name in The Flash? Was it Trickster or
Trickster, he's just doing the Joker.
he's the Joker, yeah, it's like, okay, you're just the Joker, yeah. Even in The Fall of House Usher, it's like, okay, you bringing out the Bronx voice. Okay, this is the Bron
Yep.
he's like, okay, this is the requires the Bronx voice. But I love Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill's fantastic.
No, he's great. He's great.
Yeah. So, what'll be your final thoughts and rating for Batman Caped Crusader?
Oh, man, I really enjoyed like I guess 7 out of 10 episodes here. Loved 7 out of 10. Neutral on one, kind of down on the last two. So I'd give this a tune in, kind of just
Okay.
like a regular tune in. I think I really like a lot of what this is doing. A lot of the twists are working for me. It was just that little bit at the end where, and I think it maybe sticks out just a bit more because it was the only maybe more serialized or ongoing element of the season that I didn't care for, and the fact that it was the last 2 episodes, so it kind of left off on its worst note for me. But for the most part, I really did like this. I think Hamish Linklater is going to be up there, at least in like the top five voices for Batman, if not like top 2 or 3 for me. I think he was knocked it out of the park. I think most of the cast here does a great job. One other thing I'll mention along with my rating is I think you get a lot of like ensemble cast of Gordon and Barbara and Montoya and Bullock and Flass, and really getting to see the dynamic in the police station. And I thought that was a really cool because I feel like, if that's something to give this a point over the 90s animated series is you never got as much of a dynamic between all those characters as you did with Batman one-on-one with each of those characters. So that's something I think the show did really well, standout wise. Great art style, great animation. Even if it's a little conventionally created, by today's standards and just in terms of how animation is done now. But yeah, all in all, solid, strong tune in.
What's your favorite episode?
Favorite episode is going to be the Harley Quinn one, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was really strong. I really liked that. I love her costume. I love the way they did her look for kind of a 40s version of Harley Quinn. I love that she had nothing to do with the Joker in this version. It was like a completely standalone villain. And I thought she had the most interesting dynamic with Bruce and Batman before fully being the villain. So that I think was the most interesting the show
That was
was to me.
episode 5, The Stress of Her Regard.
Yeah, I think yeah, right in the middle.
Okay, yeah. I really love the Catwoman episode. I give it to maybe Catwoman. I like that. Christina Ricci
That was
coming
great
in.
too.
And this in
They got the
Catwoman's a
Catmobile.
yeah, she's got the like a Catmobile there. And how she's kind of just like a rich socialite there. Who just
Yeah, it's very true to. It feels very true to some of the old comics. I mean, that costume she's wearing, right? That's straight out of the 40s, the classic 40s look. And yeah, the fact that she's kind of in over her head and kind of messes up a lot. And I don't know. I thought she was a very charming and endearing version of that character.
yeah. Is this the one that Julie Newmar she wore in Batman 60s show? It's kind of similar.
Julie Newmar's got more of like a all black leotard with like a gold necklace.
Ah, yes. Okay, yeah, yeah. I'm looking at it right here. Here we go. This okay,
Yeah,
very nice. Hmm.
I just watched one of her episodes the other day. Actually, been watching my way through that series.
Yeah. How was it when they did the animated movie where they brought everybody back?
I thought that was a lot of fun. Plus, you know what? I liked that Two Face better than this Two Face. If I'm being honest, it was William Shatner too, because there actually never was a Two Face in the old Adam West series. They never did that character. So when they did that animated movie, they were like, "Well, let's get an actor of that age to come in and play Two Face," and they went with William Shatner, which I thought was a really fun choice.
Nice. But yeah, I like the Catwoman episode there. I thought that was pretty good. I like the back and forth also between him and Catwoman. That's always a very fun play between the both of them. And it was really good in the Batman. I thought that was very good there.
Yeah, yeah, really strong there too.
Yeah. So I would give it a tune in as well. Would I be interested to see a second season? Yes, I would be interested to see a second season, see it improve upon some things in the second season. Some better, stronger stories here, some more better arcs here. Like I said, this is kind of beginning of Batman, beginning of his relationships. Him maybe learning to trust certain people in the Gotham City PD. One of the main people that he kind of learns to grow more, kind of trust for is Barbara Gordon. So he's creeping up on her instead of Commissioner Gordon. He's scaring the shit out of her first before he goes
Right.
over there. Hopefully they don't do the thing like they did in Batman. What was it? The Killing Joke. Hopefully they don't do that. What
Yeah.
happened in the Killing Joke there? But I
Fingers
mean,
crossed.
maybe because I think they're supposed to be somewhat the same age in this. Is that what the
It
5?
would it would make more sense here, honestly, than anywhere else.
Yeah, because it seems like they're somewhat supposed to be the same age there. So it wouldn't be as creepy as what happened in the Killing Joke there.
This would probably be the least creepy version if they did do that.
Yeah. So and I also like some of the deep cuts, like you mentioned, the Noctura, that was a deep cut there, and Onomatopoeia is kind of more of a deep cut. There, the
And
gentlemanly. Oh,
gentlemen, it was the side character, Papa Midnight. That's like a straight up Hellblazer Constantine character.
yeah, so I like that there. A little bit more of a throwback there to some of the kind of retro type villains. We don't get the same. Of course, everybody knows Harley Quinn. Everybody knows, Clayface. Everybody knows Two Face there. So a little bit more different ones there that we kind of get, which was nice. But it does tease Joker at the end of this season because as much as you get tired of Batman, people probably sick as hell of Joker because we get a lot of Joker. I mean,
To be honest, I could have done without that.
I could have figured, like, of course, you're gonna have to tease Joker because everybody, Joker's the main guy. Everybody knows
Yeah.
Joker there. So you kind of got there.
At least he didn't have a grill. That's
Yeah,
all
at
I ask.
least he didn't have a grill. He wasn't singing show tunes as we're gonna see him in the next movie there. So you have that. So yeah, two good tune ins there for Batman Cape Crusader. It's on Amazon Prime right now. People can binge it, all 10 episodes there, about 25 minutes to 30 something minutes there of good
Yeah.
time there. Yeah, I like that, you kind of see Batman a little bit more grow, throughout the series there. Like that episode with Noctura, you see him like maybe in the first episode he wouldn't have done what he did in that episode. He kind of picks her
Yeah.
up and drapes his cape over that. So it's like, okay, you see in the character grow a little bit more there
Yeah.
throughout the
Yeah, I
show.
like that.
I like the part where he got beat the shit up by carnies. They thought he was a pedo. He beat the shit out of him. Yeah, that was something there. Yeah. So Batman Cape Crusader there.